Okay, today we are going to be converting percentages into fractions and vice versa, meaning from fractions to percentages. So the first one we have to deal with here reads to write the percent as a fraction in simplest form. Don't get too scared about fractions because they're actually quite easy. Anytime you are given a percentage, percentages are always out of 100. So all you have to do is take the percentage and just put it out of 100. So 5% is the exact same thing as 5 out of 100. Now, the thing that's going to trick you is the scary S word. And the S word I'm referring to is simplest form. So now we have to remember how to simplify fractions. When we do this, we have to come up with a common factor of 5 and 100. And the common factor of 5 and 100 happens to be 5. So then you are going to simplify by dividing by 5 over 5. So 5 divided by 5 gives us 1. And 100 divided by 5 gives us 20. So 5% written as a fraction in simplest form is 1/20. On into another one where it asks us to write the percent as a mixed number this time in simplest form yet again. So we are given a percentage of 168. Well, that's always out of 100. So we're going to start just like that, 168 over 100. Now we have to simplify it because it has to be in simplest form. Well, that's an improper fraction because the numerator is larger than the denominator. So that's when the numerator is going to be divided by the denominator, just like that. So how many times does 100 go into 168? Well, it just goes in once with 68 left over, and you would write that whole thing as 1 and 68/100. However, that can be simplified. So we're going to keep our whole number the same, right? So the 1 is going to stay there, but we have to simplify 68 over 100. Well, those are both even, so we could divide by 2 over 2. And that would give us 34 over 50. Well, guess what? They're both still even. So we're going to divide by 2 over 2 again. So 34 divided by 2 is 17, and 50 divided by 2 is 25, and that is as far as we can go with that part of the mixed number. So the final answer is going to be 1 and 17/25. You can always check that by using the calculator. When I snag the calculator, I'm going to do 68 divided by 100. And you will see that it's 0.68. I'm going to do the same thing with 17 over 25. I'm going to do 17 divided by 25, and it better be 0.68. 17 divided by 25. Sure enough, it still is 0.68. So there we go. We're turning percentages into fractions. And we're not going to do vice versa. We're going to do the opposite way. We're going to start with a fraction and turn it into a percentage. And I think this is extremely easy as well because, like I said, all percentages are out of 100. So we're going to write this as 31/50 is going to be equal to some number over 100 because all percentages are out of 100. Now, the quickest, easiest way to do this is to think, how do you go from 50 to 100? Well, you're going to multiply that by 2. And if you're multiplying the denominator by 2, you have to multiply the numerator by 2. So 31 times 2 is 62, which is why 31/50 is the exact same thing as 62%. And we can check it on the calculator by doing 31 divided by 50. See what that gives us. There's your 0.62. And keep in mind, that's red 0 and 62 hundredths, which is why our correct answer, sure enough, is 62 over 100. But once you have something over 100, it's already in percentage form. So 31/50 is 62%. On into a mixed number. This one's a little bit more challenging, but it's not too difficult. The 1, if you have one whole, so if you're given a test and you get the whole thing correct, so that means that 1 is going to turn into 100%, because if you got a whole thing, that means you got 100%. Now the next part, which is the half, because it's 1 and a half. Well, what's 1/2 as a percentage? Keep in mind, 1/2, which is a fraction, to turn it into a percentage, always has to have a 100 in the denominator. Well, how do you go from 2 to 100, that's multiplied by 50. But if you multiply the denominator by 50, you have to multiply the numerator by 50. 1 times 50 is clearly 50, which is why they say that 1/2 is the same thing as 50%. But now what's the whole thing? What's 1 and a half or 1 1/2? You got to combine those two into 150%.